We're back. It's Tuesday at noon.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So we're going to talk today a little bit about some plumbing types of materials used, in particular the polybutylene. I don't know if any of you heard much about it. It's getting far and few in between now that you see it, but it's still out there. Probably half of the mobile homes out there today were used it back in the 70s. And early 80s, they started seeing a problem with failures. Connections would fail very frequently, mostly due to the fact that it doesn't do good with temperature changes. So all the connections that were made loosen up and then start leaking water. It's like I said, it's very rare these days, but Leslie sent y'all an attachment that tells a little bit about it. Of course, now these days they use how do you pronounce that? Polyethylene. Yes, PEX is what they're known as. Yes. So, and it's some of it can be kind of hard to tell the difference between. The newer stuff is usually colored like red or blue. There is some clear stuff out there, but always look out for it and let your clients know that it's not. It's a good system as far as the material itself, but it is known to failures because of joints.
So the polybutylene is usually like this gray color, if you guys can see it on my screen.
That's it.
I have seen it in some houses built in the 90s in Andover and West Wichita.
Yep.
So it was still going on even past the 70s, like what you'd mentioned on the mobile homes. I mean, and these are $300 and some $1,000 houses that still have these in there.
Yes. Yep. And it would be very expensive to have to replumb a whole house. Like I said, on these particular situation, you just have to keep a close eye on all your joints, because the expansion and contraction through the temperature changes is what causes it to fail. Especially which is not allowed, or it shouldn't be done, if you're running the one line coming off the water tank directly to the water tank. You're supposed to have like 18 inches of some sort of metal line like copper before you attach any plastic to the water line coming out of the water heater.
Let me see if I can find a picture of that. This is the PEX plumbing. Sometimes it's white, but most times it's red for the hot lines and blue for the cold lines. We just insulated ours in our crawl space, and the easiest way to tell when it's white is touching it. The hot water line's warm, so it was easy to decipher what was what.
Yep.
Let's see, water heater.
I think I've only seen a few instances at homes I've been to that actually still have it.
So you're talking about it needs to be something more like this, where it's got these metal pieces that connect to the PEX. Is that what you're saying?
Well, see, like the picture with the hot water tank there. Yes, that's attached almost directly to the water heater.
Right.
That's a no-no. That needs to have like a flex copper or a copper line. They do have some other flex materials like a metal braided line that you can use.
That's what this one is.
The water heater, yes, that is good.
And
Yes.
here's what the copper lines look like, guys.
Yep. They have little ridges on them.
I mean, in my opinion, this PEX plumbing is like the best plumbing on the market.
Good luck with it, yes. And it resists the temperature changes and temperature around it a lot better than the gray stuff did, the poly stuff.
The other nice thing about it is it's bendable, and so it seems like there's a lot fewer joints, like compared to copper, where it doesn't bend and they had to put all the elbows and the connectors and everything else that could be a failure point, compared to the PEX where it's just bendable.
Yes, but always remember, being in crawl spaces, we see this stuff used a lot, the PEX stuff, to replace older plumbing, and then they just let it droop and hang down. They don't support it. It still needs to be supported and secured so it doesn't bounce around.
Okay. I've seen these a little bit, some different looks to them. I don't know if anybody knows what these are called. Let me see if I can find a different. Here's a different look, but that's still not the one I'm looking for. I mean, Jason, do you want to explain to everybody what those are?
What are you looking at here, Leslie?
Oh, like the manifold system and how they work.
Oh, yeah, manifolds. I was getting ready to touch on that anyway. So the manifolds is where your water line comes in to one point, and from that point, it separates to all the other areas of the home. Some of them actually have little shutoff valves right there as well, and you can mark those like, kitchen sink, shut that valve off, and then you can service your plumbing fixture at the kitchen. That's almost a standard these days in newer homes. They're very nice systems. It allows you one point for the water to come in and then distribute from there to the rest of the house instead of having one line coming in and just teeing off to all the different areas that it needs to go to for bathrooms and kitchen and other areas that need water supply.
The other nice thing about something like this is, like, for instance, I had a client that messaged me earlier in the week and he's got a plumbing leak on something in his bathroom, and he can just shut the water off directly to that toilet or that sink and then not have to shut the water off to the rest of the house in order to take the problem.
Yes. Yeah, those are very nice systems. And there's different kinds of them.
Let's talk about lead.
Lead,
Yeah.
that's old plumbing. Yes.
Yeah. So when you guys see this type of plumbing, I don't know if you can see, everybody can see this, but you'll be able to go back and watch the video, but it's a lead pipe. So some of them under the kitchen sinks are more of this thicker looking stuff.
It's very, I don't think I've seen it to this day. I know they used it a lot from like the water meter out in the front yard to the home. That was where we had water quality issues. But I still do see lead drain pipes because it's flexible and you can move it to where you, or bend it or flex it to where you need it to go to continue your drain line. Yes.
So one of the reasons, other than obviously getting lead in your water, that they quit using it is, you can tell from the picture that I've got pulled up, that basically it starts corroding from the inside out, and it almost is like a heart attack to the line. All of a sudden you don't have any water pressure. And it's because the hole has gotten smaller and smaller.
Yes, same with galvanized.
Let me see if I can find a picture of that. There you go.
Yep, it does pretty much the same thing. It rusts.
So, I mean, you're gonna see these in the houses like Riverside, College Hill, 50s, 60s built. If they haven't changed them out, you'll see these things. I mean, these are things we've definitely torn out of a bunch of houses.
Including, they use that too also to supply water from the meter to the house as well in certain areas, certain errors.
And then this is what copper plumbing looks like. So
yep, that's what they started using when they got away from the lead and the galvanized. And then of course now they use the PEX or plastic stuff. Yep.
And the PEX is a lot less expensive installation too.
Yes.
One other
less expensive because it's a lot easier.
Right.
Yes.
And then the last type that I can think of, get rid of my phone call there, is PVC. I would see that sometimes in the 80s or in mobile homes.
Yes, so this stuff is not, it's not even like copper. You can't bend it or flex it. It has to have joints and it has to be glued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks more like a PEX, so it's going to be more like this.
That was used quite a bit in the 80s.
Yeah. Anybody have any plumbing questions for Jason? Or things that they've seen or issues they've had with it?
How hard is it to replace that in the future? I mean, how expensive? Is that just super expensive?
It depends on the home itself, really. Do you have plumbing in the walls? I mean, if most of the plumbing is exposed that you can easily access, shouldn't be too bad.
Well, how can you tell though? I mean, say, I sold that house in College Hill that's a 100-year-old house, and you can't tell from the outside. So
Right.
you just give them that warning, it's galvanized and that could happen. Is that
Pretty
Really?
much, yes. There have been times where I called out galvanized plumbing, and I actually got rebutted because they called the plumber out and said there's none there. But I promise you there was, because when you turn on a faucet and you see a reddish or even a red water come out, there's galvanized plumbing there somewhere. And sometimes it may only be like a 90-degree elbow. They've changed it all out, but they put it back together with a 90-degree elbow galvanized and the home set for, 30 days. You're possibly going to see a little orange coming through there. That doesn't necessarily mean the whole house is plumbed galvanized. It just means it has a section of it that is galvanized plumbing. I've come across that. So it's yes, it's hidden. It can be hard to see. Most of the lines we see anymore coming in from the meter have been changed out to copper or plastic, most of them by now. So you got to worry with some of the older homes, such as in College Hill, where they run plumbing down in the cellar or crawl space. Sometimes those areas will have the galvanized and you'll be able to see it.
I've even had in the past a home inspector call out the low water pressure and suggesting that the main water line to the house needed to be replaced. And one thing that I did after they left with my client is I went to see if it was low water pressure in every sink, but it was just the kitchen. And
Right.
so many of you guys probably know, like there's a little screen that is on the bottom of your faucet. And so all I had to do was unscrew that, clean it out, put it back on, and then bada bing, we're in business. We've got the same water pressure as the rest of the house. So not saying that you have to remember that on every time, but it definitely saved a deal because it gets expensive to have to dig out a yard
Sure.
and put in a new main water line.
And the size of your piping has control of your water pressure as well. So the bigger the pipe, the more pressure you're going to have. The smaller, the less pressure you're going to have. That
One
makes
other
sense too.
Yeah, one other thing I'm thinking to talk about on plumbing, we've seen this come up on FHA requirements, is the release valve on that pipe that comes down off of the water heater.
That's the TPR, temperature pressure relief valve. So if the tank gets too hot, it should blow off the steam out of that pipe. Some of the older ones, sometimes you see like a little residue of dried water at the bottom of that pipe, or even dripping out of the TPR if it doesn't have a pipe. That's why today's standards dictate that it gets a line attached to it and run outside the home. So if it does start leaking, you don't have water inside the home damaging anything.
So if you guys can see on this picture on the right side of my screen, there's that pipe that's coming down out of the side of the water heater. So if you've got an FHA buyer, that is something that will have to be done. I think maybe it was Amanda. I'm trying to remember who we had that. And it's something that you can point it out when you're looking at it. And it's something that the buyer is even able to do as long as the seller's okay with them. Usually it just screws in.
And some of them, scroll back up, Leslie, run it down to the drain pan that the water tank is supposed to sit in now. And then the drain pan will have a drain out of it to outside the home. So the water is in a controlled area.
Right. Those pans are nice. I mean, if your water heater ever springs a leak, at least it's going in there first instead of all over your floor.
Over your floor. Yep.
Like that one.
Mine did it.
Yep.
And you can usually tell, just for FYI, if you've got a new water heater in the house and you don't have a drain pan, or the TPR doesn't have a drain line, it's probably a do-it-yourself install.
I'm trying to see if I can find a picture of this too. A lot of the new construction, one of the cool things that I think that they do now is when they put in these water heaters, they've recessed the cement, maybe like an inch into the floor. And so that way it kind of creates its own cement pan for the water heater in case it ever does leak. And usually it's kind of right there by the sump pump and all of that goes into that. So that's something you guys can just look for and point out.
Yes. They're figuring this stuff as they go.
Well, they've had a minute to figure it out, so at least they're working on it.
Yes.
Anybody else have any plumbing questions?
me. I don't think so.
Okay.
Jason, you just did such an awesome job that you answered it all.
Thank you, ma'am. Hopefully, if anybody does have any questions, they can always call me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have
Thank you.
sent.
Thank you, Jason, for meeting with us every Tuesday.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
And
Hopefully-
I've sent all of those papers out to all of you guys in your email, and anybody that's watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, if you want a copy of the information about the polybutylene, message me and I'll email it over to you.
And if anybody has any suggestions on any topics they want me to go over, just give me a ring-a-ding.
Okay. Or
I'm
again, if you're watching this, PM me and we'll get Jason to talk about it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for tuning in, guys.
Thank
See
you.
Thank you,
y'all.
Jason.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well, that's her screen. I keep forgetting that.